My fiancée told me, "Don't expect any gift from me this Christmas." I calmly replied, "Fair enough, but you'll still get your gift." That same day, I placed the engagement ring on the table, packed my things, and moved out of the apartment. When she came home later, there was only an empty apartment and a decision waiting for her. After that, she searched for me like a mad person. My name is Daniel Hartley, and I'm a commercial insurance broker in Chicago. Nothing glamorous. I spend my days negotiating policy terms for mid-sized businesses, explaining liability clauses to people who'd rather be doing anything else, and occasionally closing deals big enough to make my quarterly bonus worthwhile. I'm 31, drive a reliable Honda Civic, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I had my future figured out. Her name was Paige Sullivan. We'd been together for 4 years, engaged for 8 months. She worked in digital marketing for a startup downtown, one of those companies with exposed brick walls, kombucha on tap, and beanbag chairs in the collaboration zone. She made decent money, maybe $15,000 less than me annually, but we'd always kept our finances relatively separate. We split rent down the middle on our Lincoln Park 2-bedroom, alternated grocery runs, and settled restaurant bills however felt fair in the moment. It worked. Or at least, I thought it worked. The problems started showing themselves around mid-November, though looking back now, the cracks had been forming for months. I'd just been too in love, or too stupid, to notice them spreading. Update 1. November 18th. A Tuesday. I remember because I'd just closed a particularly tedious contract renewal with a manufacturing client, and I was in an unusually good mood when I got home around 6:30. Paige was on the couch, scrolling through her phone with that blank expression people get when they're not really seeing what's in front of them. "Hey," I said, dropping my messenger bag by the door. "Thinking we could grab dinner at that Thai place you like?" My treat. I actually made some decent commission this month. She didn't look up. "Can't. Meeting some friends for drinks later." "Oh, which friends?" "Just people from work. You wouldn't know them." That should have been my first real warning sign. Paige used to tell me everything. What her coworker Brent said that was annoying, how her boss was micromanaging the Instagram campaigns, who was sleeping with who in the office. Suddenly, her work life had become this vague, undefined territory I wasn't allowed to enter. "Want me to come along?" I asked. "No," she said quickly. "Too quickly. It's just a work thing. You'd be bored." I shrugged it off, went to the kitchen and made myself a turkey sandwich for dinner while she got ready. She emerged 40 minutes later in a black dress I'd never seen before, heels that made her 3 inches taller, makeup that seemed excessive for drinks with coworkers. "You look amazing," I said honestly. "Thanks." She grabbed her purse and keys. "Don't wait up." She came home at 1:15 in the morning. I know because I was still awake, lying in bed, trying to convince myself I wasn't the kind of guy who worried about his fiancée being out late. She smelled like cigarettes and expensive cologne, not hers, not mine. When I asked if she had fun, she just said, "Yeah," and went straight to the bathroom to shower. That happened 3 more times that week. By the end of November, our conversations had been reduced to logistics. "Can you grab milk? I'll be late tonight. The water bill is due." We hadn't had sex in 6 weeks. We hadn't really actually talked, in longer. December 10th. That's when everything crystallized. I came home early from work, around 4 in the afternoon. One of my clients had postponed our meeting, and I decided to surprise Paige by cooking dinner. Maybe we could actually sit down together, remember why we'd gotten engaged in the first place. Her laptop was open on the dining table. She'd clearly left in a hurry that morning. Coffee mug still half full, phone charger plugged in, but no phone attached. I wasn't trying to snoop. I walked past the table on my way to the kitchen, and the screen lit up from sleep mode. What I saw made me stop cold. Her Facebook Messenger was open. A conversation with someone named A at the top of the list. The preview message visible on the screen said, "Last night was incredible. When can I see you again?" My hands started shaking. I sat down. I shouldn't have clicked. I knew I shouldn't have clicked. I clicked. The conversation went back months. July. Before we'd even set our wedding date. Flirty messages that escalated into explicitly sexual ones. Photos I will never be able to unsee. Plans to meet at hotels I recognized. Nice ones, the kind I'd suggested for special occasions that Paige had always said were too expensive. His name was Andrew Chun. From what I could gather in the messages, he was some kind of entrepreneur. Real estate, maybe? He drove a Tesla, owned a condo in Streeterville, and apparently had enough disposable income to take my fiancée to restaurants where appetizers cost $40. There were other conversations too. 3 other guys. None as extensive as Andrew, but enough to paint a very clear picture. My fiancée wasn't just cheating on me. She was running a small rotation. I sat at that table for 2 hours, reading everything. My vision blurred a few times. I couldn't tell if I was going to throw up or pass out or start smashing things. Instead, I just sat there, methodically screenshotting everything and emailing it to myself. When Paige came home at 6:30, I was still sitting there. The laptop was closed. I'd composed myself enough to not look like a complete wreck. "Hey," she said, dropping her bag. "Why are you home so early?" "Meeting got canceled," I said flatly. She went to the bedroom to change. I heard her humming. Actually humming. Like she hadn't just destroyed 4 years of my life. Update 2. I didn't confront her that night. Maybe I should have. Maybe that's what a stronger person would have done. Thrown the evidence in her face, demanded answers, had the big dramatic showdown. But I wasn't angry yet. I was numb. The anger would come later. Instead, I started planning. December 11th through December 15th. I went to work like normal. Came home like normal. Made small talk with Paige like normal. She had no idea I knew. No idea that every time she said she was working late or meeting friends, I knew exactly what she was actually doing. I called my friend Kevin, who's a real estate attorney. Told him I needed to know what my legal obligations were regarding our apartment lease. We were both on it, co-signers. He explained the options. One person could buy out the other, or we could both leave and deal with the early termination penalty. I called the landlord. Told him I'd be moving out, that I'd cover my half of the lease through the end of January if Paige wanted to stay, or we could negotiate an early termination if she wanted to leave too. He was surprisingly understanding. Probably not the first couple he'd seen implode. I called my parents in Minneapolis. My mom cried. My dad asked if I was sure, if maybe I was overreacting. I sent him one screenshot. He stopped asking questions. December 16th. I started quietly packing. Not obvious things. Paige was too self-absorbed to notice anyway, but personal items. Documents. Photos of my family. My grandfather's watch. Things that mattered. I loaded them into my car trunk over 3 trips, parking 2 blocks away so she wouldn't see the Civic gradually filling up. I found a short-term rental in Wicker Park. A studio, furnished, available immediately. $700 a month more than I'd been paying for my half of our place, but I didn't care. I signed the lease on December 18th. The whole time, Paige suspected nothing. She was too busy with her other lives. December 22nd. She came home around 5 in the afternoon, earlier than usual. I was making coffee in the kitchen. "Oh, by the way," she said casually, scrolling through her phone. "Don't expect any gift from me this Christmas. I'm really tight on money right now." Something about the way she said it. So dismissive, so entitled. That's when the numbness finally cracked and the anger flooded in. But I kept my voice calm. "Fair enough. But you'll still get your gift." She barely looked up. "Okay." That night, she went out again. "Last-minute holiday drinks with the team," she said. I knew she was meeting Andrew. There'd been messages earlier about a hotel downtown, champagne, celebrating early. The moment her car pulled out of the parking garage, I moved. It took me 45 minutes to pack everything I had left. Clothes, toiletries, my Xbox, books, kitchen items I'd brought into the relationship. I was methodical, clinical. I didn't take anything that was communally ours or anything she'd bought. I wanted her to have zero legal recourse, zero excuse to chase me down over property disputes. I saved the engagement ring for last. The one I'd spent 3 months' salary on because I wanted to do it right, wanted to show her I was serious about forever. I placed it in the center of the dining table, still in its velvet box, under the overhead light, so she couldn't possibly miss it. No note, no explanation, just the ring. Then I locked the door for the last time and left. Update 3. The call started around 11:30 that night. I know because I just finished unloading the last box into my new studio when my phone began vibrating nonstop. 15 missed calls from Paige. 27 text messages. I didn't read them. Not then. I poured myself 3 fingers of whiskey, the good bottle I'd grabbed from our apartment, and sat on the floor of my empty studio, staring at my phone lighting up over and over. Around 1 in the morning, the messages shifted from confusion to panic to anger. I finally opened them. "Paige, 11:34 p.m. Where are you?" Page, 11:36 p.m. Daniel, this isn't funny. Page, 11:41 p.m. Why is all your stuff gone? Page, 11:43 p.m. Why is the ring on the table? Page, 11:47 p.m. Answer your phone. Page, 12:03 a.m. Please, just talk to me. Whatever this is, we can fix it. Page, 12:15 a.m. You're being fucking childish. Page, 12:28 a.m. Fine. Don't answer. But you owe me an explanation. Page, 12:51 a.m. I'm calling your parents. Page, 1:14 a.m. Your mom won't tell me where you are. What did you tell them? I blocked her number at 1:30. She found me anyway. December 23rd, 9 in the morning. Someone buzzed my apartment. I didn't answer. They buzzed again. Again. Finally, another tenant let them in, probably just to stop the incessant buzzing. Heavy footsteps on the stairs. Pounding on my door. Daniel, I know you're in there. Open the door. Paige's voice, raw and desperate. I'd never heard her sound like that before. Part of me, the part that had loved her for 4 years, almost opened the door. Almost. We need to talk. You can't just leave like this. That's not how adults handle things. The irony wasn't lost on me. She pounded for 10 minutes straight. My downstairs neighbor eventually yelled at her to shut up, or he'd call the cops. She left. 3 hours later, she was back. This time with reinforcements. Daniel. A male voice. Not Andrew's. I'd heard his voice in a video Paige had sent him, unfortunately. This was someone else. It's Trevor, man. Paige's brother. Just open up for a second. Let's talk this out. Trevor. I'd met him twice. Nice enough guy. Marine Corps vet. Worked in construction management. I felt bad that he'd been dragged into this. I opened the door a crack, chain still engaged. Trevor stood there looking uncomfortable, hands in his pockets. Paige was behind him, mascara streaked, eyes red and wild. Hey, Trevor said quietly. Look, I don't know what happened between you two. Not my business. But she's been losing her mind for 2 days. Can you at least tell her what's going on? Give her some closure? Trevor, I said evenly. Ask your sister where she was on the nights of November 18th, November 23rd, December 4th, and December 10th. Ask her who Andrew Chin is. Then ask her if she really needs me to explain why I left. Paige's face went completely white. Trevor looked between us, confused. What's he talking about? She grabbed his arm. Nothing. He's making stuff up because he's... I have screenshots, I interrupted. Months of conversations. Multiple men. Hotels. I have everything. The look on Trevor's face shifted from confusion to understanding to disgust in about 3 seconds. He turned to his sister. Jesus Christ, Paige. Are you serious? It's not. She couldn't form words. Trevor looked back at me. I'm sorry, man. I didn't know. I wouldn't have come if... He shook his head. We're leaving. I'll make sure she doesn't come back. He physically steered her away from my door. I could hear her protesting, crying, all the way down the stairs. That was the last time I saw her in person. Final update. Christmas passed. Then New Year's. The anger gradually settled into something duller, something I could live with. I threw myself into work, picked up extra clients, stayed at the office until 9 or 10 most nights. My apartment was depressing. Bare walls, a mattress on the floor, takeout containers I kept forgetting to throw away, but it was mine. Just mine. That counted for something. Paige tried reaching out through mutual friends. I'd blocked her everywhere, but she was relentless. Our friend Lauren called me on January 4th, told me Paige was really struggling, and just wanted to apologize. I told Lauren she could pass along a message. I didn't want an apology. I wanted to never hear from or about Paige again. Lauren stopped calling after that. Through the grapevine, Kevin's wife was friends with someone who worked at Paige's company. I heard she'd been fired in early January. Apparently, she'd been using company time and resources to manage her extracurricular activities. Someone had reported her for inappropriate use of the company laptop for personal business. Karma, I guess. She moved back in with her parents in Naperville by the end of January. The landlord told me she'd broken the lease early, forfeited her security deposit. He actually refunded me half of mine since I'd been cooperative about the whole situation. The ring? I kept it. Not out of sentimentality. I just haven't figured out what to do with it yet. It's in my sock drawer, still in its box, a $3,000 reminder that love isn't enough when the person you love doesn't actually exist. February 14th, Valentine's Day. I got a letter in the mail. My new address. Somehow she'd found it. I almost threw it away unopened, but morbid curiosity won. It was 6 pages, handwritten. A confession, an explanation, an apology, a plea. She said she'd been lost, that she'd gotten caught up in the excitement of male attention after feeling neglected in our relationship. She said Andrew and the others meant nothing. She said she'd been going to therapy, working on herself, realizing what she'd lost. She said she still loved me, that the ring was still the most beautiful thing anyone had ever given her, that if I could find it in my heart to forgive her, she'd spend the rest of her life making it up to me. I read it once. Then I burned it in my kitchen sink. March came. I started dating again, casually. Nothing serious. A woman named Beth I met at a client's office. A few Hinge matches that went nowhere. It felt strange, starting over at 31, relearning how to be interested in someone new. But strange wasn't necessarily bad. Last week, middle of December now, almost a year later, I ran into Trevor at a hardware store in Old Town. Purely coincidental. He saw me first. Daniel. Hey, Trevor. Awkward silence. He looked tired, older than I remembered. How have you been? He asked. Good. Busy. You. Same. He hesitated. Look, I know you probably don't want to hear this, but Paige asks about you sometimes. Wonders how you're doing. I'm sure she does. She's doing better. Got a new job, moved into her own place in Evanston. She's in therapy, really working on her stuff. He paused. Not saying you should care. Just thought you might want to know she's not completely self-destructing. I nodded slowly. That's good. Genuinely. I don't wish bad things for her. But you're not interested in reconnecting. No. Fair enough. He shifted his weight. For what it's worth, I told her she fucked up the best thing that ever happened to her. Told her she didn't deserve a second chance from you, even if you were willing to give it. I appreciate that. We shook hands. He walked away. I bought the light bulbs I'd come for and went home. I don't think about Paige as much anymore. Some days I don't think about her at all. The apartment in Lincoln Park, the plans we'd made, the future I'd envisioned, all of it feels distant now, like it happened to someone else. The ring is still in my sock drawer. Maybe I'll sell it someday. Maybe I'll keep it as a reminder. I haven't decided yet. What I have decided is that I'm not the same person who sat at that dining table 11 months ago, reading messages that shattered his world. That guy was too trusting, too willing to ignore red flags, too invested in an idea of love that only existed in his head. I'm not him anymore. And honestly, I don't miss him. Edit 1. A few people have asked if I ever got actual closure, if we ever had a final conversation where she fully explained herself. The answer is no. The 6-page letter was as close as it got, and even that was more about what she needed to say than what I needed to hear. Real closure doesn't come from the person who hurt you. It comes from accepting that some questions don't have satisfying answers. Edit 2. Yes, I kept screenshots of everything. No, I never sent them to Andrew or any of the other guys. I thought about it, but ultimately decided that wasn't my responsibility. They'd figure out who they were dealing with eventually. Or they wouldn't. Either way, not my circus anymore. Edit 3. Someone asked if I regret how I handled it, leaving without confrontation. Sometimes, late at night, when I'm tired and the anger resurfaces, I wish I'd said more, explained exactly how much damage she'd caused. But most of the time, no. Leaving quietly, taking back my dignity without giving her the dramatic scene she probably expected. That felt right. Still does.